Hello, everyone. It is Alicia Hurt here, your servant leader. I am here again, but for another purpose. I am here for financial wellness today, financial wellness, and I have a phenomenal guest here with me, Miss Mary Tracy. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Alicia. Hi, everybody.
So Mary gave me some time out of her busy schedule today to talk about securing your future and the power of life insurance. Please introduce yourself, tell them where you are and how did you get into this line of work?
You know me, Alicia. I do whatever I think is going to add value to people's lives. And when this opportunity to represent a company that I really believe has high integrity, they want to get out there, they want to help the people. They specifically target, or our company specifically tries to help seniors who need final expense insurance. Of course, we can help anyone with insurance, but seniors in particular are very vulnerable because uh, they'll I don't know if it's intentionally misrepresented or if they're not exactly understanding what they have, but a lot of times the senior thinks they're fully covered. And when we examine the policy, maybe it's an accident policy that is not going to cover them in the event of a natural death. Or maybe it's a term policy that expires at age 60 or 65, and they need to be aware of that. And so that's where we come in. We visit with seniors and look at what they have, or if they don't have anything, we try to help them get something in place. And the reason, Alicia, the primary reason is so that they can be buried or cremated with dignity without the family having to get on Facebook and doing a GoFundMe and scrambling around trying to find money. I mean, let's be honest, we're heartbroken. We've just lost our parent. And now we've got to have the added pressure of finding the money that we need to take care of their final event on earth. It's not fun. And so as a child of an older parent, someone might want to sit down with me and explore some options because that's really who it's falling on. And as a parent, you don't want that burden to be on your child. So we talk and see if we can help that. Another thing, Alicia, I don't know if people are aware of this, but when a person dies, if they have money, say in a savings account that's specifically to bury them or whatever their final expenses might be, that money is not easily accessible to the remaining children. Whereas if they have a life insurance policy, that pays out immediately and they don't have to worry about trying to figure out how to get this money out of the bank. I know it's going to sound ridiculous, but my mother passed away about 15 or 16, it'll be 16 years in June. And I just in January was able to access some of the little bit of money that she left me.
Wow.
Yeah, but she left it in to me and to my 12 siblings. And by then, now four of my siblings have passed away. Two of my siblings and two of their children have passed away. And so it was just a complete nightmare of trying to get all the heirs to sign off, and then the children of the heirs and the grandchildren. It was a real work. Whereas if that little bit of money had been left in a life insurance policy, it would have been nothing. It would have been call the agent, call me, and we get that money for you.
So I know that your niche is it's everyone you help, but in particular the seniors. So for the sake of the listeners that are watching live or the replay, who should consider getting in life insurance? What stage in life is it more important to have life insurance?
Well, everyone should consider it. Everyone, because the one thing that we can be sure of is that we will die. And when we die and we're no longer providing that income or providing that support or babysitting for the little kids, something has to happen to replace our purpose here or to help us get buried. Everyone needs to look at it. Now, the reason that I would hope that people would turn to me is because I will look at what they have, Alicia. If they have something that's in place and it's good and it's going to provide their needs, I'm not touching it. I'm going to shake their hands and say, congratulations, you've got it all taken care of. You don't need anything from me, but I've got a new friend and hopefully you do too. And that's how I want to do it. I am not a shiny shoes. You know this about me. I'm not a shiny shoes salesperson. I want to be a help and a blessing to people. And this is something that's really important to me. I have a life insurance policy on my life, and I have enough to be taken care of, but with a little extra because I want my kids to be able to have a celebration together. I know that sounds kind of odd, but I have no fear of death. I know it's going to happen. And I just want to leave a little something for them. And I don't have any other, and I don't have anything else but my life insurance to leave.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are in that same situation.
Yeah. And so what you touched on is definitely a part of our spiritual wellness. Some people may be saying, oh my God, why are we talking about death? I don't want to talk
Oh,
about it. But we all came here for a season. And when our
that's
season
it.
is up, we're going to transition. And based on what you're saying, Mary, age does not define when to get insurance. It actually
No,
defines when it's going to be cheaper.
that's
Um,
that's it.
I actually, my previous world and profession, I was licensed as a life insurance producer in
Well,
Maryland and Virginia. So years ago,
yeah.
years ago. So I commend you when I saw you TikTok, and I was like, oh, Mary's on TikTok. And you were talking about life insurance. I was like, yes, we have to talk about it because here at the Women's Wellness Center at I See My Baby, we do holistic work. And that literally is a part of the holistic work. Like you have to be financially stable, sound, which means also life insurance. I want to give some more introductory questions, and then I kind of want to ask you some deeper rooted
Okay.
questions. You ready for
Okay.
that? I know we don't have
I'm
long.
ready.
Okay. All right. So, how can someone determine whether they need a term or a whole life policy? And then kind of back up a little bit. What is term and whole life?
Okay, that's a really good question. Term it lasts for a short term. So the ideal situation for that would be maybe a young couple who's raising a family that has a home with a mortgage. If one of the two of those working parents were to die, that's a lot of expense on the remaining spouse. So that's where term is a lot of coverage for less money. The caveat here is that term will continually go up and up and up in price. So the people that I'd recommend term to would be the younger couple or the younger person with a family who's depending on them. As we get older and we don't and our term rates go exorbitantly high, I recommend a whole life policy because when you get a whole life, this is how much it is every month. In 25 years, this is how much it is every month. At age 100, this is how much it is every month. So people on fixed incomes, they can plan on this. They're not going to wake up one morning to a surprise that says, hey, your insurance went from $52 a month to $212 a month. That would devastate some people. And then they would have to drop that insurance. And now they have no insurance, none at all. Whereas if we get in on a whole life, it's the same price. They can budget that into maybe they're in a fixed income. They can budget that. They know what's going to come out every month. And there are no surprises.
Makes sense. Thank you for that. So,
You're welcome.
those that have mortgages or maybe they've purchased a vehicle, you know how you receive in the mail the information and they call it all kind of fancy terms like mortgage insurance and all.
Right.
And so there's a big difference between mortgage insurance and life insurance. Basically, essentially, it's life insurance for your mortgage. Can you help
Right.
people understand that so they don't get caught up in, oh, I got to buy this?
Yes. 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 So I think that everyone should have a trusted agent that can represent these things to them. If if you're paying your mortgage every month, then if your spouse were to die, you would want that income so that you could continue paying it or have a choice of selling the home. Mortgage insurance sometimes will actually pay the bank. So now you don't have a choice of what the money is doing. It's just paying off your house. Whereas if it's your policy that you own on your spouse and they pass away, you get that income. Now you have options. If you want to stay in your home, fine. Pay your home off, pay the bank off. But if you choose not to, then you can take your little insurance. I mean, your could be substantial insurance policy, sell your home if you want to, move closer to the grandparents if you want to, do what you want to. It's your money to do with. If you have it in a mortgage insurance, sometimes the payee is the bank, and then you have no more options with that.
Thank you for that explanation.
You're
So
welcome.
there's pros and cons to it, meaning you could use it to essentially pay off your mortgage with the life insurance, or if you're like, hey, I just want to make sure that it's paid, it can go directly to them, but just be informed. And I like what you said, have a trusted agent, because that way, if you do get something in the mail, if you get something from your credit union, your bank, you can say, hey,
Mhm.
agent, hey, Mary, tell me about this. Is this something that I
Exactly.
should do? Yep. So for those like us, where me and my husband have 4 kiddos, we're so thankful for, but our budgets are tight. Is life insurance affordable for us on a tight
It,
budget?
yes, it is surprisingly affordable. And you at your age, Lisa, you and Daryl, I think that term insurance would be a very good option for you at this point. And what you might consider doing is because whole life, when you get it, the younger you get whole life, that's the one where the premium stays the same. It never, ever, ever goes up. The younger you can get that, then the lower the premium is going to be. So, what I would recommend to a couple like you and your husband would be let's put a small or a whole life policy on you, but then let's enhance it with a bigger term policy. So, when will your home be paid for? 18 years? Okay, let's have that larger amount for 18 years. When will the kids be out of college? In 15 years, 20 years? Let's have it, let's consider that. Let's have enough to take care of that should something happen to you. The funny thing is, with term insurance, there's only about 2% of term policies ever pay out. They serve their purpose, they're there. Insurance companies love to sell them because that's where their bread and butter comes in. That all that money that people are paying for term, and then because of the nature of it, of the term of it, that eventually ends, and then people don't use it. But I just don't want to see anyone with a term policy that ended and now they're not covered at all, because there are expenses at the end of life that somebody's going to have to take care of.
Right. So, Mary, how does someone know how much coverage they need?
Well, I do something called a confidential client review, and I get right into the nitty gritty of budget and income, and do you have any savings, and what are your bills, and what do you owe, and what do you want your final service to look like. And we get into all that, and then from that we can make a determination of how much a person would need to reach their own goals. Everybody is different. Everybody's different.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And what are
Anyway,
some common mistakes people make when purchasing life insurance?
they, well, they should be commended for purchasing life insurance, any kind of life insurance. It's a very smart decision. However, if it's not in their best interest. And there are a lot of companies out there, I'm so sorry to say, that operate on pure fear. They just scare people into buying maybe a substandard policy that would not meet their needs. I think I mentioned earlier to you, one of my coworkers just recently came across a very nice lady who said, "Oh, I've got all mine. I've got all my coverage. I've got this policy here." And she pulled it out. And it was an accidental death policy that ends at age, I don't know, 75 or 80. I can't remember. And she'd been paying every single month. Well, the only way that was ever going to pay out is if she died in a car accident or, a plane crash or got hit by a car or something like that. If she died a natural death, and thinking that she had this for her family, and then she didn't have it. That's pretty devastating because kids come in and they say, "Well, mama said she had a policy," and they dig around and they're like, "Oh, surprise. Susie, can you build a GoFundMe? Because I don't have it."
Yeah.
You know, and that's another thing too, Alicia. Sometimes when a parent dies, the kids are digging through papers looking for policies, trying to see what they have. As a personal agent who's not a telephone agent, or not that there's not always something wrong with that, but as a personal agent, I'm going to reach out to your beneficiaries and say, "Hey, Alicia, I'm Mary. I just helped your mom with a life insurance. I want to make sure you have my contact information. Should something happen to your mama, I want you to feel free to call me and I'll help you to get that claim."
Yeah. So how often should you review your policy or talk to your agent?
I would think that once a year would be plenty. And if you've got a good policy in place, nothing needs to happen. Sometimes with seniors, they're called, well, just extra little policies like dental or Medicare addendums that change year to year. So that's what you want to sit down and say, "How was your Medicare experience?" "Oh, my ambulance cost me $3,000 or whatever." "Well, okay, let me show you this new ambulance coverage that just came out. Let's see if that's something you want to consider." So I think once a year is a good time to at least touch base or sit down and make sure that you've got the best coverage you can have.
And how can we ensure that our beneficiaries or our families do not have any stress when trying to access the benefits?
Okay, that's a very good question. So you want to be working with reputable companies. And the company I work with is called a broker. We have access to multiple companies, Mutual of Omaha's, Foresters, Farmers, just a number of different companies that are all vetted, all proven to be financially sound. The state of Georgia also, that's what the insurance commissioner does, is make sure that the companies have enough money in reserve so that if everybody on their books was to die, they would be able to pay those policies. So we're not a fly by night insurance company. I represent a lot of very strong, very well known insurance companies.
And then what advice would you give someone who is hesitant about getting life insurance?
Well, I would first want to uncover what the hesitancy is. Can you share what you're thinking? What do you think would make a person hesitant?
Uh, Maybe the fear of, right? The fear of, or maybe even the lack of trusting. So first, trusting someone, the fear of having that discussion, because some people, frankly, do not want to talk about dying. Like they're not in a position
Right.
spiritually grounded enough to have that conversation, and maybe even being intimidated by the process itself.
The process is very simple. It's a simple questionnaire. Get on the laptop. This is what we have. You usually coverage happens immediately, but if you have 2 months to look it over, if you change your mind, it's no problem. You get your premiums back, and it's absolutely no problem. So, as far as trust, you are asking a life insurance company, for example, to provide you with enough money to bury you. Say it's, I don't know, $20,000 and it's going to cost $80. So they have to trust you. We're saying we'll give your family $20,000 if you'll give us $80 a month. And this is just off the top of my head. I'm trying to think what a premium might be for an older person. And so it's kind of a two-way street. Not everyone is accepted, unfortunately, too. It um, lifestyle has a lot to do with it. And so that's where the questions come in. And then we do everything we can. And by having multiple companies, we have some companies that are more lenient, say with heart attack, or we have some companies that will absolutely positively guarantee coverage. You can be sick, just had a heart attack, just had a stroke, and you can get guaranteed coverage. And the way that it works is it pays out in 2 years. So if I mean you live for 2 years, then it's just normal insurance coverage. If you were to die in that 2 year period of time, then your family gets all the premiums back that you've paid. So there's no loss. There's not gain for the first 2 years, but there's absolutely no loss. And so, anyone in that situation, I would absolutely recommend go ahead and get that coverage. Hang in there, seriously, hang in there. And sometimes that can be a very psychological thing for someone to really get their mind around. What can I do to maybe improve my health and improve my situation in life?
Yeah, I never thought about it that way. I was like always think about us trusting the company, but you're so right. They're trusting us. It's a two-way street right there.
That's right. That's right.
So if the listener is like, okay, you guys, I am going to do this. You have really inspired me. What are the first steps someone should take if they want to secure their financial future with life insurance?
Well, I think that they should call me and let me just come over and sit down and let's look at what you have. And I don't know who your audience are. They all in Georgia or
Everywhere. I'm
okay, they're
connected
everywhere.
everywhere.
Okay. So we have what's called a resident life insurance. That's for my resident state of Georgia, but I can get a non-resident insurance license in any state. That's not a problem. And then I can help you personally, or I can refer you to someone on our team that could also help you. That would be right there sitting at your dining table, drinking coffee and eating pie. But actually, if you're serving pie, then I will come and
No, that's right. So it doesn't matter what kind of pie, right? Just in case for those
Well,
that are like,
I
well, what
really
kind?
don't care. Any kind is fine.
So as we close out, and again, thank you so much, Mary. But if they have not heard anything else from what you said in the last 30 minutes, what is one thing you want them to walk away with today?
I want them to consider it. I want them to sit down, look at it, get their questions answered, and whether or not they decide to move forward with life insurance, at least they know what they are saying yes or no to.
And how can we get in touch with you? I did put your link for TikTok in the chat, but how
Oh,
can they get
did
in touch
you?
with you?
Okay. So I've lived all over. I have an Arkansas area code, but I'll say my number two times. The first time and then grab a pencil. I'll say it again. It's area code 479-685-6229. And again, 479-685-6229.
All
They can
right.
call or text me and I'll sit down with them. Yeah, I'll sit down with you and just talk about possible needs.
Excellent. Now, because we're all about inspiration and enlightenment and, just all that grounded stuff, give me one quote, mantra, or affirmation that really helps you get through your day.
I am beautiful, bountiful, blissful, and blessed. Every day in every way, my life is getting better and better. I've got them
Amen.
all. But I just got these cute little stickers. If anybody wants one, I'll pop it in the mail. It says, take care of yourself so you can take care of everything else you want to take care of.
Amen. Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much, Mary. I hope to
You're
have
welcome,
you on
Alicia.
again because we cannot talk about this enough. All right, you guys, bye for now. Alicia Hurt, your servant leader at the Women's Wellness Center for I See My Baby. Again, we're at 310 South Scott Street in Bainbridge, Georgia. See y'all later.
Bye. Thanks, Alicia.
No problem.